the Property Pod. Welcome to the Property Pod with Moneyweb. The property sector is an ever-changing sector. And in this podcast series, your host, Suren Naidu, chats to movers and shakers in the property industry.
Hello and welcome to the Property Pod, the country's premier property investor podcast. On this Moneyweb show, we gain insider insights from leading CEOs, analysts, developers and entrepreneurs in South Africa's dynamic real estate sector. We are zoning in on the residential property and development market now, focusing on a group that's grown tremendously over the last 15 years. It's called Tricolt and it's headed by Tim Kluk, the founder of Tricolt, that's got some really iconic developments on the go in several parts of Gauteng, but it's also expanding out of Gauteng. And he's going to share more of that. You might have seen some reports on Moneyweb on Olympus Sandton, for example, but that's just one of them. Tim, welcome back from your holiday. Good to have you on the podcast.
Thanks very much, Suren. Thanks for having me.
Before we go into the group and its developments, Tricolt, as I mentioned, Johannesburg-based company. Most of your property flagships are here. And Johannesburg and Sandton have been in the spotlight recently with the G20 and B20 summits. Lots of international delegates were in town recently, a couple of weeks ago. If you were talking to them, why invest here? And are the prospects looking up for SA's economic hub? That's Joburg and Gauteng.
Suren, Joburg has always been the commercial heartbeat of the country. Even when sentiment dips, the fundamentals of Joburg remain incredibly strong. It's still the home to the largest concentration of corporates, banks, law firms, professional services, and retail spending power in Africa. With the G20 summit here, it almost reminded me a bit of 2010, where everything works in the country or in the city for a period of time. It's actually quite refreshing, and it shows that we do have the potential. But the G20 summit really placed global attention back on Sandton. And I think it reminded investors and people that this city, it still behaves like a true economic engine. There's infrastructure, demand, lots of talented developers and REITs. And I think it's starting to show good grass shoots. Chatting to a lot of the brokers and property guys, they're starting to stick on their rental rates and their pricing. And there's quite a bit of energy. Even this morning I was with one of the major contractors and he was saying how many inquiries he's got going out. So I think Joburg has kind of bottomed out and we're starting to see some positivity and it's quite exciting. So I don't feel it's a speculative bet. I think it's a market with proven resilience.
Well, it's good to hear that we need some positivity in Johannesburg. Olympus Sandton now, we've covered it quite a bit. In fact, I broke the story in mainstream business media last December. How significant is this development for the group? It's quite striking, and I understand it's now being fast-tracked from, starting with one tower, but now going with both towers at the same time. And there's been a little bit of new information that's come out. We know about Marble Restaurant on one of the highest floors and pantry, but I understand that it's going to include a Marble Boutique Hotel.
Yeah, Suren, it's taken a while for Tricolt to find the right Sandton project. Sandton, we've looked, there's a lot of different parts of Sandton and we never found the right position. Either the building looked over another building that wasn't that aspiring or had bad views or bad orientation or wasn't close enough to Sandton City or was on a different kind of back alley. So it took us a while to find the site. And then when I met the Growth Point guys and started to understand what they've got planned for the Sandton Summit Precinct, I got very excited because, Tricolt historically have done very well in precincts with Waterfall City as well as Oxford Parks in Rosebank. So I got quite excited about this idea of the precinct. And, Olympus Sandton really is a gateway site to the precinct. You've got this incredible Discovery building across the road. You've got Sandton City across the road. You've got this new trending LXX shopping centre just behind it. It's all brand new buildings and it's at the summit. It's the highest part of Sandton. So any building that I put on there, would look tall. It would look taller than it actually is. I'm actually interested to see how tall Olympus will look against the Michelangelo and Leonardo, just because in terms of topography, its starting foundation is a lot higher. So it's so exciting for the group. I mean, I compare it to like a kid with Lego blocks. We all got so much passion and drive. I've just come from a design meeting, and it's such an exciting project for us.
Talking about design, and you talked about height, what is the final height numbers that we're looking at? Because it's 2 towers, and then perhaps do you want to go into some of the components? As I mentioned, marble is going to play a big role in that building.
Yeah, so Marble, the partnership with Marble, I got introduced to David, Gary, and Dino, and we immediately hit it off. I mean, the guys have got such a good vibe and energy, and everything they do, they absolutely do it to the max. They really, really do it. I mean, even the luxurious Marble Circus, it was an unbelievable event that they hosted. So we started off with just a pantry on ground floor. I think they were looking to go into the LXX shopping center, and things didn't quite work out. So this site just was perfect for them. And then Gary actually mentioned to me that he'd seen a concept, the Sushi Samba, which is a restaurant on top of the 6-star St. Regis in Dubai on the Palms. And he said to me, go have a look at that restaurant and, give me your opinion. I flew over to Dubai, and I just thought it was one of the most incredible experiences. It's a phenomenal hospitality and food offering, and I could just imagine it up in the sky, in our towers. It was really going to be an iconic address for us. So we then moved from having a pantry and a high-end restaurant up in the sky, which is going to have awesome 360 views. It's really going to be a landmark for Sandton. And then again, the conversation got going, and Gary and Dino and Dave, their business obviously started with Marble, which is a restaurant, but what makes the restaurant great is it's the hospitality, it's the experience that you have from the moment you enter the doors. And these guys are experts at it, and we thought, well, why not, take that into doing a boutique hotel in one of the towers. Now, for me, that was strategic because it does a number of things. I always wanted to have a kind of a breakfast area and a pool bar area that would serve residents only. So the public can obviously get to the pantry and they can get to the restaurant, but I needed to activate the podium, which is a resident-only space. And if you don't have an area where you can bring the public in, obviously the commercials don't stack up. But now with Marble having a hotel in the building, they needed to have a breakfast, lunch area. So what I got there was an expert restaurateur who will now service that pool and podium level for me, for the residents and obviously their guests. Another thing it does, when Marble does something, they just do it to another level in terms of design and the spend on the finishes. So, they're going to bring up the average room rate of all the other people buying in the development that might want to short-term let. Marble is going to be at 10,000 Rand plus a night, and the other guys are going to enjoy those, not maybe those type of prices, but they're going to enjoy their prices getting dragged up by having a quality operator like Marble in the building.
Well, I understand fully what you say because we actually did an exclusive and broke the story on Sandton Summit over 5 years ago, just before COVID, and then COVID hit, so things slowed down. The Growth Point were looking at some international hotel brands to come in there as well. So I think they're probably quite excited because Marble opened their first restaurant in a Growth Point property, BNA Waterfront. So they also have a relationship with Growth Point.
Correct, yeah. So we're very excited. We're starting off small. It's going to be around 30 to 40 rooms, and we'll see where it takes us.
Now, Tricolt, I'm aware of the group. I think we might have met at the Ellipse launch in Waterfall with the tech. But
Correct, yeah.
As a group, I see it was founded back in 2010, a big year for South Africa. But then since then, things haven't gone really South Africa's way. You could say part of the last 15 years have been the lost years. We won't go into politics, but looking at your site, 5,000 residential units, maybe more, total value of around 16 billion, during a time when the SA economy has hardly grown by over 1%, other than the bounce back from COVID. What are your thoughts? But can you give us some insight into what do you attribute the group's success to? Because it's largely focused on the Gauteng market. And it's clearly a case of you seeing the opportunities besides all the doom and gloom, particularly like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's a good question that, and people often ask me. We're born out of a small group of friends that kind of started in Tricolt, and we always speak about the Tricolt pie and growing the pie. And, the pie stands for passion. What we do, we love what we do. Designing these buildings, as I said, it's like a kid at Christmas for us. We really enjoy getting involved in these projects, especially these projects that live and breathe like Olympus, mixed-use projects where you're redefining luxury living in a way, specifically when it comes to South Africa and Joburg. Then the I is integrity. We started at the Houghton and we built a great reputation, and we got a huge following of buyers and loyal clients, I suppose, that have followed us to other developments and have done well and reinvested. So I think that comes down to our integrity and our reputation that we've built. And then excellence. We always wanting to be on the cutting edge. We watching residential developments and luxury developments and hospitality developments in Dubai, Australia, America, all over. And we constantly seeing what we can do better and how we can push it, But then it also comes down to price. So, we speak about the 3 Ps in Tricolt, which is position, product, and price. First of all, position. We want to make sure our sites are in the right position. I mean, that's the fundamentals of property. Everyone speaks about position. We've invested in precincts in Waterfall City, our other development in Rosebanks in Oxford Parks. We're now starting with the Sandton Summit precinct. Or we've also pivoted to golf courses, which, South Africans all love golf courses. And in a way, Tricolt, by developing on the peripheral of the golf courses and through the social membership and annuity that's provided and given back to the golf course, we've saved a lot of the green lungs in Johannesburg. 3 different golf courses we're developing on, and we've managed to save those golf clubs instead of them being turned into, affordable housing or offices or industrial. We've managed to keep those green lungs by developing beautiful, tasteful developments along the edges and contributing monthly towards the upkeep of the course. Then price is obviously a big one. We obviously can't, sell at crazy figures in South Africa like they do sell these branded residences all over the world. So every time we're trying to push the product and make it look better, we've obviously got to bring it in at the right price point. And, we are known for luxury, but if you look at our pricing, there's still an affordability level to it. So those 3 Ps, product, price, and position, are very important to us.
It's interesting you mentioned the Houghton. I thought it was the case, just out of interest, I think over 5 years ago, it might have been pre-COVID or just after COVID, there was a SA RIT conference, interestingly enough, and Justice Malala, I don't know, the political analyst, I don't know if he stays in Cape Town, but it was the first time he had gone to the Houghton Hotel. And he was like gobsmacked that you have this, striking development that was developed around that time. You played quite a big role in the apartment side of it. Was that the start? Was that your first major luxury apartment development, or was it a little bit early on? I'm just looking for some insight around the group's history and how the group started.
Yes, that was one of our first major projects. The development, if you know the history, stopped in 2008 in the banking crisis, and I wasn't involved in the beginning development, but in 2010 we relaunched the Houghton. And I often joke with people and say, look, when we relaunched it, we had 2 names in mind. One was Louis Botha Heights or the Houghton. And it's because the position was obviously very close to Louis Botha, but it was on a very famous golf course and area in Houghton. It was on the edge. So it was a great learning curve for the company. We did 8 years. We developed out over 400 apartments, plus we were involved in developing out the hotel, which is now operating and is a successful business. And I'm being very impressed with the operators and how that hotel is living and breathing at the moment. We achieved over 3 billion in sales over that period. And we developed apartments from 3 million all the way up to 69 million, I think was the most expensive unit sold there. We customized units for specific buyers. We obviously had the standard units. We combined units. Some units were up to 1,200 square meters. So, we learned everything from cinema rooms to spas in units to a whole lot of different amenity that certain owners wanted. It was a great base for the group, and I think we learned a lot during those years.
We've talked about Olympus Sandton, but besides Olympus Sandton and partnering with GrowthPoint, you mentioned, Attack and working with Waterfall City, where you were roped in on the 4-tower Ellipse development. That's almost done. But you have a new high-rise apartment tower development being launched there, Aspire Waterfall, that looks even taller from the visuals I've seen. Do you want to share a little bit about that and some of your other developments in Gauteng that you want to highlight? Because the website says there's around 5 billion rand worth of development on the go at the moment.
Yeah, so Waterfall City has become one of the most exciting mixed-use precincts in the country. And our experience with Ellipse showed us just how strong the demand is for secure, amenity-rich, high-rise living. And Waterfall Aspire is basically the next evolution. It's a unique site in that it's attached directly to the mall. So it's really going to be on that live, work, play. The amount of amenity that the mall has is obviously well known. But then within the actual Aspire development, we've got 2 exciting offerings, which we'll let you guys know in the new year who they are. So it's going to be the tallest residential building in Waterfall. It will be the second tallest building in Waterfall, just behind PwC. It's 20 stories, and it's a very exciting project for us. We hope to break ground in March next year. And it's aimed at a new generation of buyers who want premium living without a premium price tag and great amenity.
Any other developments in Gauteng that you would like to highlight before we go into your expansion beyond Gauteng's borders?
Yeah, we're busy with a number of apartments on Royal Johannesburg Golf Course. We've finished a development called Brookfield, and we've got another one being launched in the new year. We're still busy with a variety of products in Serengeti Golf Estate and Ive Africa Golf Estate. And then we've got a couple of projects in the new year, which we haven't yet announced to the market, but some exciting stuff coming.
Does that include your expansion into Cape Town? I'm sure I saw a press release about your first foray into Cape Town. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So we currently got a development which is underway called Cantabella. It's a smallish development of 36 units. It's got a small kind of coffee shop and some co-working space. That was our first development that's launched. We've secured 3 other sites that we'll be looking to unlock in the new year, which are some real iconic buildings. We believe the Western Cape expansion is taking off, and there's huge demand from our database for us to develop stock down in Cape Town.
So I'm going to catch you off guard here because I've got a lot of insights covering all the different property companies. You have a good relationship with GrowthPoint. Are you perhaps going to partner with GrowthPoint because they've got a couple of, outside the V&A waterfront, they've got some big development plans for the Cape Town CBD?
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly some of the sites. We've had a great relationship with GrowthPoint. We're very excited about our partnership with them. And we're ready. Watch the space. We call it iconic as a new address.
Tim, your company, any other highlights you'd like to share before you go around the growth and entrepreneurship? And perhaps what more, you've kind of hinted that there's a lot more projects on the go, but, further insights on what has been behind the success of the company. I know a lot of what we talked about illustrates that. But you are a young 40-year-old, seems like you've got a young, innovative company. It's quite exciting to see it in Johannesburg, but, the expansion into the Western Cape is quite interesting as well.
Yeah, we've actually we've got a very exciting new year. We've brought in one of the top 6-star hotel brands in the world that we're looking to do 2 developments with them in Cape Town, one in the Winelands and one in the Cape CBD. I can't quite announce who they are yet, but we're very excited about that. And that's Tricolt now venturing into hospitality. We obviously were involved in the Houghton Hotel, and we're now doing the hotel with Marble. But this will be our first real big play into hospitality. In terms of success and what makes us, I suppose it just comes down to discipline and a very simple philosophy. We try and build where people want to live, and we try to build products that stand the test of time. As developers, we have a huge responsibility in terms of putting up buildings that people can drive past and enjoy and positively contribute to our cities. Instead of scar the landscape, we really need to take that responsibility seriously.
Just one last question. I just remembered now, or I thought of it. How did your link up with GrowthPoint come about? Did they see what you did in Waterfall and Houghton? Because I don't know if Mel Taman is still on the board, but in the early days when I interviewed Mel, he gave me the insight into some of the high-rise apartment developments that were set to come up in Waterfall when he was CEO for a year or two at a time.
GrowthPoint, through Paul Collingberg, actually phoned me up and mentioned that he had a site and wanted to know if I was interested. And it started off with a simple coffee, and before you knew it, it was one of the fastest tracked projects ever. I mean, within 6 months we had designed the building, and we launched it obviously in February this year. And we actually planned a phased development with GrowthPoint there. It was going to be one tower and then the other tower. And the sales just went so fast and the demand was just insatiable that we decided to open up the second tower, and now we're building it as one whole phase. So it was a coffee, and they're showing me their vision of the Sandton Summit precinct, which I totally bought into and was very excited about the opportunity. And as I've mentioned to you, it had taken us a while to find the right Sandton site. We had really looked at a number of sites.
Well, Tim, that's been a very fascinating conversation. Good luck to you, and we'll be watching out your other new developments in the new year. That was Tim Kluk, the founder of residential or luxury residential developer Tricolt.
Thanks for listening to the Moneyweb Property Pod with Suren Naidu. To listen to more episodes, go to moneyweb.co.za or the Moneyweb app and follow Moneyweb News for daily updates. Follow Suren on Twitter @Suren Naidu for more of his property industry content and other business stories.